Hello everybody, John Felt here, and this is the Mershman Seeds Weekly Weather Briefing, May 4th, 2019. Well, as you know, a whole lot's going on. It's been a challenging spring so far. We have widespread inundation due to rivers out of their banks. We have widespread fields that are too wet to get into and delaying field operations. And I'm going to be talking about some cooler air moving in, and that's not what we want either to warm up soils or dry out the soil. So a lot to talk about, so let's get started here. Over the last week, we had, once again, there are a couple things here. Your eyes go to the yellow and red, and that's 2 to 5 inches of rain. But I think also we need to look at how much green covers the Midwest. Almost the entire Midwest received a ½ inch of rain. So we continue in a wet weather pattern over many areas, not allowing fields to dry out. But going back to the focus of heavy rain, look how widespread the 2 inches. The entire state of Missouri had 2 inches of rain with pockets of 3 to 5 inches. Good part of Illinois likewise. So very soaking rains last week. Now all the action is due to a gradient of moisture and temperature. And look at our dew points here. Our dew points, which is low-level moisture, 50s and 60s and even near 70 south of this boundary, and then much drier air to the north. So a battle of dry air here and wet air down here that's causing all of our rainfall. You can see it in the departure from normal temperatures last week as well, the same boundary with very warm weather down here and dry and cool up in this region. So that set the stage for a lot of rain. We look over the last 30 days, and these areas in green, almost half the days there's been some measurable precipitation. You look at the darker green, and note these both come in the upper Mississippi. These are 16 to 20 days of rainfall out of the last 30. So, as we all know, rivers are out of their banks in many areas, either due to snowmelt or rainfall. More and more it's rainfall than snow, but the snow did set the stage. Now, this reach here has really been, these are the near record flood stages. You saw Davenport, Rock Island area, record stages. Those rivers now have crested and are falling, and the crest this weekend is now working along the Missouri-Illinois line. Next week over southern Missouri, and then really the lower Mississippi, those ag regions, that'll be rising until further notice, and you'll see why. Not only do we have all that rain coming down from upstream, we have a lot more coming in from just the lower Mississippi itself. So soils really, you can see even soil temperatures, you can see that boundary, 50s, 60s to the southeast, but look at this, really stubbornly cool over the upper Midwest. So we're looking at Iowa soil temperatures generally in the 40s, maybe occasionally in the 50s. Further to the north, still in the 40s. I should say 50s in Iowa, not 40s. But we're looking at really having a hard time getting 60-degree temperatures up into, pretty much further than Iowa. So we're looking at, look at these temperatures here. These are still in the 40 degree here. This is 50 degree here, the 60 degrees way down here. So it's really been a struggle being on the cool side of that boundary. So not only do we have the cool soils, we have very wet soils here. Look at the areas in green and blue. Those are areas most likely to have the saturated fields. So we're looking at pretty large areas. And just from the last week, you can see Missouri and northern Illinois, northern Indiana, Michigan, and then good parts of Iowa, just pretty much most of the Midwest, really wet fields. Okay, so let's get into the forecast, dig into the forecast, and if you look closely here at the jet stream, you're going to see this dip here. Blue meaning the jet stream's further south than normal, and from pretty much days 3 up to really pretty much the middle of the second week, we have that blue here, and that corresponds with some cooler air pushing in. Now the core of coolest air you're going to see is in the western states here, the western Corn Belt, from the Dakotas down all the way down to Oklahoma and West Texas. Over the eastern Corn Belt, we get a glancing blow, but it's not as much. But still, look at this. Go right through days 14, you don't see any above normal temperatures pretty much anywhere over the Midwest. So we're looking at cooler than normal temperatures for the next 2 weeks. We also have problems with more rain. Now we have two areas I think where the rain's going to be most significant. The first and by far the heaviest is going to be over the south central U.S. This is going to be coming into the lower Mississippi, and that's why I think the lower Mississippi, ag regions along the lower Mississippi are going to be inundated for well into June, it looks like. And then we have this band here, and this is an area of anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of rain, just small areas of 4, but I think mainly 1 to 3 in here. And that's going to aggravate the situation. Now I'm going to show you in a minute the breakdown of where that's going to occur. Now if we look at the accumulation of rainfall out through the next 10 days, just from one model, it shows you here, again we have this band here, but this is really the area we're setting up. This is back-to-back weeks of heavy rain last week, this week, and the following week. Northeast Texas, southeast Oklahoma, parts of Arkansas and Louisiana. We're going to be hearing about that on the news for some pretty widespread flooding. Okay, so I wanted to show you here where this 3-inch rain falls. These are the basin boundaries. This is the upper Mississippi in this region, to the north of this region, this line, and then to the south of this line, this is the Missouri. Most of this falls in the Missouri, so this is going to bring some very significant rises down the Missouri. Some of this is in the upper Mississippi, but note that a small part of the upper Mississippi. So I think the water coming in here is mainly going into the Missouri, and you're going to see rises from St. Charles on south into the Mississippi, the middle Mississippi. The areas that have been very, very high in this region here, note that the heaviest rain is not in that area. So I do think that recession will continue. Now you do have some rain in there, maybe an inch or so. That could slow the recession. It could put a little bump in the recession, but I do not see higher river levels or crests where we have seen them in these areas. This area here, this could slow the recession, give us some higher bumps, but I think it'll be falling by the time this rain comes in here. And again, this water will be coming in from the Missouri, so right around St. Louis on downstream. Okay, 6 to 10 day. Like I said, mainly the western and central Corn Belt, but most of the area below normal temperatures. And look at this, except for this far southeast and the far west, large parts of the country, week 2 below normal. So pretty much below normal temperatures for the next 2 weeks. Now maybe a little bit of a positive news here is with the colder or cooler temperatures, it's usually not as much capability for heavy rain. So it does look like in the 6 to 10 day, we're looking at below normal precipitation over most of the area. And I do think there's a chance of some precipitation, but not as much in the 8 to 14 as well. The focus is going to be over the south central U.S. So we're basically going from one ag issue to another. We're going from the really, really wet weather to the cooler weather. Okay, so the hazard outlook, we are going to have to deal with this heavy rain threat on the 6th through the 8th. Most of it's going to be the southern, south central U.S., but that'll extend into parts of the eastern Corn Belt. Look at this, week 2. You don't see a high risk that often for week 2. Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, southeast Oklahoma may be extending up into towards the Ohio River. Very heavy rain outlook again for week 2. That is going to be a very big flood threat for that region. We're looking at weeks and weeks of heavy rain. So that's this week's briefing. A lot to talk about, a lot of weather going on. It is spring, but I do think that we've probably seen our highest flows with this. Crests going down with record stages in a few spots, major, generally the 4th highest in other spots on record. Now, I am doing some research on how this compares to 93, and I hope to have that out later this week. If you have any specific questions, if you're along the river and have any really specific questions, you can email me, John, John, @bluewateroutlook.com. Take care.